Hi and welcome to Jessie James Beads. My name is Jem and today we're going to make a super easy earring that you can make really long and dangly and dramatic like this one, or you can keep it a little bit simpler and shorter. Let's head down to the board and look at the beautiful bead mix which we're going to use today, which is the Champagne blend from the Colour Trends collection. So the Jessie James Beads mix today is Champagne from Colour Trends. Gorgeous collection of champagne, topaz and vintage rose colourways there. Absolutely gorgeous collection with lots of sparkle and fun. I particularly enjoy the fact that these beads have got two types of finish. So you've got a matte buff and you've got a super high polish with that coating. We're also going to be using this beautiful fabric, gorgeous, it's almost like a vintage rose champagne colour. Absolutely beautiful to behold. This tactile, bulbous, coated bead. I don't even know what shape you'd call it. A fancy droplet, I guess. I've also got a couple of these beautiful bead caps, and I'll show you two different ways to use those. One of these two-tone faceted rondelles. I'm going to add in a couple of eye pins and show you how you can make your very own matched earring finding too, and a short length of the chain of your choice. Now you can alter the length of the chain to make a very different feel of earrings. You can cluster them all together on a very short length, or you can do as I have done, is pop them on different ends of quite a dramatic length of paperclip chain. So let's talk about wire today. We're going to be using a copper colour wire in 18 gauge, and I'm going to be teaching you two primary techniques as well as that cheeky little earring finding. So let's start with a very basic connector. This is a little bit of scrap wire I've had available on my desk, so we're going to give that a quick warm through before we ensure that both of those ends are nice and trimmed smartly with the flush side of our cutters. And there we are. So what we're going to do is to create a very simple double simple loop dropper. Now this is a connector that anybody can use. I'm also going to show you a cheeky little hint where you can use the box joint of your round nose pliers to create that angle. So I've come around about a centimetre, just under ½ an inch from the end of that wire, and put a right angle on. And I'm going to turn that into quite a large loop shape just by rotating those round nose pliers. And you can kind of get used to the distance that you need. Let's just refine that shape up slightly, give it a little bit of a strengthen, and then we're going to add that into that beautiful fabric dropper. It's like a tassel but not. And then we're going to close that up. Now we're opening and closing that circular form without changing how the circular form sits. And then we can add in our chosen bead. Now there's plenty to choose from in that gorgeous champagne mix. What I'm going to do is use this gorgeous two finish faceted bead. It's like a very chubby rondelle or a slightly off round. So for this to work, I'm going to be very protective of the bead as it's glass. Put a right angle on one side, it's just shy of a right angle, and then again you can estimate the distance you need. It's around about 1 centimetre, which is 10 millimetres, or a little under ½ an inch. And then again we're going to use those round nose pliers to just rotate that around until the cut end of the wire sits flush to the angle change that we made. Super simple, super easy. Those of you who've never played with wire before, I feel very strongly confident that you will also be able to make this work. So let's open that up as if we're opening a jump ring and grab one end of that wire. Chain. So I've chosen to use paperclip chain because I had some on my desk and I particularly enjoy it. It's a lovely chain. Now with this earring design, if you look at the piece I've got demonstrating today, I've added the earring finding in the third link from one end, and my chain is 7 links long, and that gives me this gorgeous appearance of the two different lengths. Beautiful in motion, lovely to wear in the ear. You can of course work with a much shorter piece of chain, or you can simply add in the next part of your design, one link up, and just use 2 links directly into that earring finding. You get a much shorter drop, and it feels completely different. So you've got lots of different options on how you can use a design like this. So that's one half done. Let's find that 18 gauge wire. I'm working with round copper core, copper colour wire, and I'm going to trim off around about 8 inches or so now. Again, I'm going to make sure that the end is cut flush and not going to cause me any issues, and we'll give that a quick warm through. So both of these techniques are super accessible for those of you brand new to wire work, so I hope that you feel confident enough to have a go. We're going to start by creating a double coil. What's a double coil? It's where you coil the wire around twice. So we're going to start with one coil, small movements will make a much neater coil. Once you've got that first circular form going, what we're going to do is press that into the finger of the non-dominant hand and create a disc where 2 lengths of wire, 1 and 2, circle around. Once you get that tail of wire to sit adjacent to that start point, I'm just going to flip that over, grab with my bent chain nose pliers and move that away so that it sits centrally, a bit like a lollipop. Then we're going to add in a bead. Let's go for this 2-tone faceted rondelle. Love these, gorgeous colour. Then what we're going to do is add the first of our bead caps. Now the bead caps in this particular bead mix are fabulous. If you take a closer look, you'll see that you can spread those gently to open the bead cap up. And if I show you that overhead, like so, you'll see that that's going to fit almost any bead in the collection. So an easy way to achieve this is to pop in our next bead onto that core wire and let it sit down. Now it does look beautiful with the bead cap as is, however I really like to play with the bead caps and make them do different things. So I'm going to very gently just push the base of the bead down until that beautiful bead cap opens up like a flower that is blossoming. Then what we're going to do is add in the other bead cap on top of that gorgeous, soft, beautiful bead and just leave that one in its original position. And in that way we're almost reflecting the shape of the bead itself with its lovely bulbous base and a slightly narrower top, much like myself. So what we're going to do now is create a right angle in the wire, but we're going to leave a bit of a gap at the top. So I'm going to use my pliers to measure the distance. When you're making earrings, it's really nice to be able to have the same distance created so that you get some form of symmetry. You can eyeball it if you like, or you can measure it, or you can just use a pair of pliers to give you the basic idea. So once we've got that right angle, just move that over to the side. You can see where we're going to go next, which is back to those round nose pliers. So we're going to create a round form up at the top, scooch that all the way around, bring the tail of wire over the top, and then again when you're making earrings it pays to try and get the loops that you're creating the same size. So I tend to do these in piecework. I'll do a little bit by a little bit, and in that way I know I'll be able to match things up neatly. So we're going to pop this on the other length, on the other end of that length of chain. As I said, I'm using the medium paperclip chain and I cut 7 chain links for my design. You can reduce that number or you can play around with different chains by all means. I'm going to support then across the loop that we've created. Might be easier to show you if I just bring that around sideways. What I'm not doing is pressing down where the wire crosses over, and I'm not causing any pressure on that chain link either. So my pliers sit across the centre of that loop, just supporting it whilst I draw the tail all the way around. Now what we're looking to do here is to create nice tight coils. So you can stop after you've done the first couple and just tighten that coil up a little bit. And then you can continue with those nice controlled neat coils, filling in until you have the same number of wraps as you do on the other side. So I think I'm going to go for one more half a turn around, trim that wire so that it ends at the back of the design. Let's pop that in the scrap pot for later reuse. Flip that design over, and then we're just going to push that tail until it sits neatly down on that core wire. The core wire is the one that sits all the way through the centre of the bead. So you can obviously take a little bit more time to get those wraps super neat and tidy. I'm going to give them a little bit of a retrospective squish to make sure that that's as tidy as I can get them. And then what we're going to do is open up the earring finding. Now you can use any earring finding you want. I will just show you as a cheeky bonus in a second how you can create this earring finding from a pair of eye pins. So I'm just going to put some strength into that loop first. Open that loop up as you would a jump ring. And then I'm going to count 1, 2, 3 links from the bulbous drop that we created. Pop my link into that space at the base of the earring finding and then close that up, and then you've got a matched pair of lovely earrings using that beautiful Colour Trends champagne bead mix. So if you wanted to learn how to make your little matched earring findings, let me grab a couple more of those beads. We're going to just move these over to one side for a second. You don't have to do this. You can, of course, use your own earring findings. If you're going to use eye pins to generate earring findings, I would always make sure that I have got the ends very, very smooth. Now I do have a burr cup device, which I will add to these before I put them in my ears and just get them nice and neat and smooth, but you can use a nail file to give that a quick polish to make sure it's not going to harm the skin. Obviously when you are putting wires through the body, you need to make sure that it's nickel free and it's not going to cause any problems for the wearer. In the meantime, let's add these little beads, those beautiful two-tone beads from the champagne bead mix, onto those eye pins. And then what we're going to do is just sit these side by side. Let me grab a pair of straight pliers, and I'm going to put a turn on the straight pliers just above that loop in the same place on the pliers. So you could, if you wanted to, put a little mark on your pliers to delineate where that happens. And then we're going to grab our multi-step bail making pliers. I'm going to use number 4. I tend to use number 4 for everything. And if I put those side by side, it means that you're much more likely to get a symmetrical outcome. However, it's just a little bit more tricky to hold. So once those two wires have lined up neatly, let's just do that one at a time, it'll be easier for you to see. We're just going to rotate that around, draw the tip back down like so. Let's pop that down onto the desk for a second. Here comes the other one, draw the end over the top. They pretty much match anyway. And then just as a little final design, I tend to turn the very, very end just ever so slightly away. If I show you that with the other hand, just put a little tick on the end. Makes it easier for them to insert into earring piercing holes. And you've got your very own little pair of ear wire connectors in a matter of seconds. I hope that you have enjoyed today's super easy earring using Colour Trends Champagne Bead Mix. My name's Jem for Jessie James Beads.